How's it going, my friends? Jomo here. It's a late night over here in Phoenix, and it's about 4:20 a.m. I am quite the night owl. I've been staying up pretty late lately, so I've been on a late sleep schedule, but just wanted to come to you guys with an article that I came across tonight that revolves around early retirement. And I've been reading this blog right here, earlyretirementextreme.com, off and on for the last couple months, and it is a gold mine when it comes to strategies and ideas and philosophies that could really set you free financially if you follow them. For those of you guys who don't know when it comes to early retirement, what it means is kind of sidestepping the ideas that we have in culture about needing, to work 30 or 40 years in order to finally be able to walk away from work and relax and sit back for the rest of our lives. And what early retirement means to me is decreasing my expenses right now, rather than feeling like I need to buy all these things that culture tells me I need to buy, like a house, like a nice car, like a family, and like a really expensive wedding, and all these other really expensive things that people take on because they want to keep up with the Joneses. They want to be like everyone else. And so what I've been exposed to over the last year has been a lot of concepts that are pointing me in the direction of early retirement, which is basically realizing you don't need as much stuff, as much money as you think you do in order to retire. And if you can decrease your monthly expenses, then you can, while simultaneously increasing your income, then you can retire way earlier than you thought. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of case studies of people who have done this, like all over the internet. If you just do a search for early retirement blog, early retirement forums, there are, countless numbers of people who are taking these principles, running with them, and retiring. Some of them even in their early or late 20s, but usually what I've seen is like 30s and 40s. A lot of people are retiring, whereas, culturally, in America at least, we are typically retiring between 60 and 65 years old. If you're working like a typical job, putting money into a 401k, saving and investing for your final day of work, so that you can then kind of relax for the rest of your life. And they've actually done studies about people who do that and found that when people stop working, they start losing a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning in life, and those people end up dying pretty quickly. Like their life expectancy drops significantly when they stop working, for a lot of people. And so, maybe I started questioning, as a lot of other people in this community started questioning, if this was the path that was necessary. Like, is this the path that everybody needs to be on? Maybe there's another way. And so that's where this was born. And to be honest, I don't even know when this whole movement started. I was just recently exposed to it over this past year. And I've just been immersing myself in the community, immersing myself in the blogs that are out there. And this specific blog that I'm going to share with you, earlyretirementextreme.com, is one of those jewels, those nuggets of wisdom that if you are interested in going down this path, I highly, highly recommend that you check out this blog. One thing that I really enjoy is like how simple it is. It's a very minimalistic blog. And the guy, Jacob, who owns the blog and writes in the blog, I believe posts almost every day, or at least if it's not him, then there's a contributor posting. And this thing right over here, this 21-day makeover on the sidebar, is a really good place to get started. Now, granted, I haven't done all of these things because a lot of them are pretty extreme, hence the name of the blog, Early Retirement Extreme. A lot of his ideas are pretty extreme and radical, and you can really just choose however you want to go about this path of early retirement. You can choose, if you want to go extreme like this guy. And then there's even more extreme examples. I read this book called Possum Living recently. That was actually one of his recommended books from this website. And this woman is literally living off of $700 a year, which literally blew my mind. And but to me, when I read that, I was kind of like, oh, I mean, she gave some pretty practical examples and ways that she was able to do it. But for me, I couldn't really see myself living the type of life that she was living. There's some, I'm not going to get into what it was, but she does some pretty ridiculous things in order to be able to live on that little amount of money. So, I am more on the side of where Jacob suggests. And, in this particular blog post that I wanted to share with you, he states that it is possible to retire on $85,000. And he talks about how that is possible. He goes into the concept of purchasing dividend paying stocks and relying on those, just ones that have performed really well over the years. And he gives the example of like how much, basically he's assuming a 7% dividend yield, and then he's basically saying how if the yield goes down to 6%, then you would need $100,000. But basically he's kind of using the number of that he's projecting that these dividend yields are going to net him. And the common number that I've seen out in the early retirement, investment space is the 4% rule, which is essentially to figure out how much you need to retire, you multiply your yearly income by 4%, which is the same as multiplying it by 25. So basically, and this is a pretty radical example, if you only had $10,000, if your yearly income needs were only $10,000, you would multiply it by 25 and get $250,000 is what you would need to retire off of, in a safe way if you're using the market for your investment returns, if you're relying on the market. And that factors in some other things that I'm not going to get into in this video, but suffice it to say that his example is basically if you had yearly expenses of $6,000 a year. Once again, this is pretty extreme, which is the same as $500 a month, which if you do get resourceful and creative, I believe is absolutely possible. I've been able to decrease my monthly expenses over the last year by doing some creative things and just really questioning what do I really need. I've got it down to around $1,000 a month, so that's about $12,000 a year. So basically, his example is about half of that. And his example is these are what the expenses would be. Your rent would be $200 to $250. Health insurance would be $75. Food $50 to $75, which is pretty low. I will admit that for food. Transport $0 to $75, which is definitely possible if you're biking or using a motorcycle, or you're using like a scooter to get around, or taking infrequent trips through like Uber or Lyft. When you really need it. And then utilities $25 to $100. Which that is totally possible. I mean, when I used to rent an apartment, my utilities were totally in that range. But yeah, the only one that is kind of difficult to do, I would say, is getting the rent pretty low. And health insurance, if you are committed to only earning $6,000 a year in retirement, then you'll definitely be able to get health insurance around this amount. Just based on your income, because you're just going to get a lot of deductions. If you're only if you're only earning $6,000 a year, your insurance is going to be really low. and then you could always move abroad. You could live elsewhere. Granted, there's a whole lot more work that goes into that, and getting visas and citizenship if you really want that. But I'm not going to get into that in this video. That's also something that I've researched. But basically, you can definitely get your health insurance this low. So yeah, I would say food is the only one that's kind of questionable, and maybe rent. But if you get roommates and you choose like pretty simple living headquarters, you could find that, right? If you really searched for it, you could find it. There are places that rent for like $750 a month that you could split between 3 people. There are places that rent $500 a month that you could split between 2 people. And then also, if you outright own your home, or you own the place that you live, other than property taxes, you essentially have 0 rent. So, and I'm talking about outright ownership. I'm not talking about paying a mortgage. So, one thing that I recommend to anyone, from what I've learned and what I've been experiencing over this year, has been, if you have a goal of early retirement, you want to pay off your debts as soon as possible. And if you're trying to earn interest that is higher than your debts, you're kind of crazy, because most of the time you're not going to be able to find that. For me personally, I had credit card debt that was, I think, about 24% interest, right? So I'd be hard pressed to find an investment in the market for 24%. The predictable investment, right? The only way that I can maybe find that is just taking a ridiculous risk, and that money would most likely get lost if you're taking such a huge risk in the market. Now, when it comes to like developing a business and earning that kind of return on how much you're investing in the business, that's a different story. And if you do have something solid like that, then of course, like, keep as long as you have like a cash cow that's pulling in a certain large percentage higher than your debts, keep doing it. But if you don't, and most people don't, then if your investments aren't higher percentage interest than your debts, then the easiest way to earn some extra interest is to just pay off your debts. And so you're not paying that extra 24%. Now you're earning it, or at least you're retaining it. So that's what I've read, from countless different sources about, making sure that you're paying off your debts first, right? Before you start trying to figure out what to invest in, make sure that your credit card debts and your student loans have been paid off in full. So that was my goal at the beginning of the year, was to pay off all my outstanding bad debts, which is like debts that are accruing interest and that I'm not using towards things that are producing income. So that's what my goal was, and I'm actually very close to hitting that goal. It's looking like within the first couple months of 2019, I'll be able to hit that goal. And I'm actually going to pay a large majority of it before 2019, so at the end of this year, so that I can retain some tax benefits from doing that, because you can claim up to $2,500 in interest per year for your student loans. So if you pay off $2,500 worth of interest, you can write that off on your tax deductions. So that's my plan, is to hit that amount, or to pay off the amount that will lead to $2,500 in interest, which I am definitely going to be doing by the end of the year. So definitely on track with that goal, and through the process of setting that goal and trying to achieve it through just like hustling my ass off over the last year, and reading things that will improve my savings, like these types of websites, the early retirement websites and blogs. It's really been helpful, and philosophy changes, lifestyle changes as a result of desiring to cut my expenses, not in a way that totally, like destroys my life, but it improves my it gets me closer to my goals, and it strips my life down to its bare necessities. So I feel like a true real minimalist through this process. And then I realized, just how much I really need. I need so much less than I thought I did when I was spending way more. So it's really an exercise in resourcefulness, an exercise in just recognizing just how little we need as a human being, right? Culture warps us into thinking that we need some things that we really don't. So anyway, I highly recommend this blog to you guys if you're interested in the early retirement path. In this article, I just wanted to kind of highlight and show that breaking it down like this is very possible, and if you were to go with this number, by the way, and use the standard number of, you multiply the yearly income that you need by 25. I'm just going to pull out the calculator just so that we can get the right number here. So we'll just multiply 6,000 by 25, and that's 150,000. So if you could figure out how to cut your expenses down to 500 a month, you could, based on all the numbers and the data that's out there about the amount that you need in order to retire, you could literally retire on $150,000. And the question is, how fast do you think you could save $150,000 in the bank, or through different savings or investments that you could make? How fast could you earn that? And literally, that's your number. Like, that tells you how fast you'd be able to retire. For me personally, I believe I can retire in 3 to 5 years. And so I'm going with that. And that's my goal, is to be able to retire early in 3 to 5 years so that I can focus my efforts on the things that I'm really passionate about. Granted, through this process of, hitting that goal, I will be doing more and more of this, of creating content to help you guys succeed on your journey. And I'm just really excited to keep sharing this type of content. Please let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this whole concept. If you have any specific questions, please let me know. I'd love to make this interactive. I'd love to help you guys in whatever way I can to set your goal or to hit your goal, whatever that is. So definitely like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to this channel so you can get more content like this on the regular basis. And let me know in the comment section what your thoughts were or questions so that I can help you out. So with that being said, thanks so much for watching this video. I really look forward to continuing to update you guys and share the insights that I've learned on this journey with you in the coming days. So with that, I'll bid you adieu, and have an awesome day.